Okay.
Okay. So what's it like over there in Southern California?
Yeah, not bad, not bad.
Yeah.
I had a little sneaky flight across the Pacific
Yeah.
and snuck in beyond, the border security, and
Yeah.
here I am in the dude studio.
Uh, Actually, I thought you were on Crunch Island.
Oh, right. Oh, could be.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at how grubby my sweatshirt is here. Excuse me, viewers.
Not true.
It's let me see, it's 8:45 in the evening on Tuesday evening here. So nice to see you, Paul. I haven't spoken to you for a while.
I know. I tell you, I was going to mention this. I was very pleased to see that you were on a live chat with Mill Billy and a couple of other things as well. I think you've done one or two of your own videos. It's really great how if you like, the spirit of the dude just carries on, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, indeed. In fact, he's the one responsible for all that. I have actually recently done not so much some videos, but I talk to Stephen regularly, and occasionally we decide to record a few little things just to try to connect him to all his supporters.
Yep.
And he's a very interesting man to speak to. So I feel he needs to be shared to be truly understood. So there's still a lot going on, and a lot of people out there trying their best to keep the stories in front of our minds. So I'm hardly a night goes by that I'm not listening to something someone's put out there.
Yeah.
So
I was very encouraged a few weeks back when I was speaking with Pete Darcy. He said, I got a phone call the other day. Laurie picked up the phone, and it was, do you want to accept a call from, but it wasn't the one that Brendan was at, and it's like, I don't know anybody there. And so they decided, to accept the call. And Pete had a half an hour chat with Stephen Avery.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously a lot of it would have been reminiscing, and one or two people would have pointed out, that, maybe Steve just wants to connect with the people that he feels are his closest allies. And certainly Pete would be one of them, I think they go back a long time, and
they do.
Yeah.
Well, in a very well-intended, loving way, they both loved Laurie at various times in their lives, and Pete obviously still does.
And Bob.
Yeah.
Because we know that Bob and Steve were close when they were younger. And then obviously, Bob marries Pete, and
Pete's married to the lady who's the mother of Stephen's children, right?
That's right. That's
a loving, important relationship to nurture and maintain. So
the grandkids regularly come round.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I dropped around to Peter's it seems so long ago now. A couple of years ago, I was over there. I dropped around to Peter's place, and he invited me around, and one of Steve's sons was there, one of his daughters was there. So I think some of the grandchildren were there.
Yeah.
It was nice to catch up. One of Steve's sons, in fact, it's Steve Jr. is.
Yeah.
In fact, because the boys are twins.
Yeah.
They're the spitting image of Stephen in terms of their general appearance. It's a bit bizarre to be talking to them and seeing them. You'd like to talk to Steve, 20 years earlier or so.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. But what obviously was I haven't had a chance to really have a chat with you for quite a while. And I think the last time we chatted, you were just about to announce who the first recipient of the Dude scholarship.
Yes. Well, you might have been holidaying down in Spain or something.
I might have been. I might have been busy walking this bloody dog. Oh, gee whiz! Do you know I've lost nearly 4 stone?
That's wonderful.
I know.
You need to compute that to pounds for our American friends, Paul.
Well, it's 4 times 14, so 28, 52.
56.
Is it?
Yeah.
14 and 14 is 28.
28.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I'm the numbers guy, right?
You are the numbers guy. Yeah.
I hope I'm right. Ooh. So, yeah, that's a wonderful achievement. How do you, quite apart from, just your physical appearance, how do you feel inside?
Yes, I haven't been able to get into this shirt for a couple of years, but recently, the last 3 weeks, I felt really quite ill, and it turned out that it did go from having a really bad flu to COVID. So I was I was positive, yeah, for not quite 10 days.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And did you isolate for that time?
Yes, I did. Yeah. To self-isolate. Yeah, although I still took the dog for a walk, because you know where we are. We are so close to the countryside. We're literally out the house and we're into wooded area, so
yeah.
So I did do that. And I think we had somebody locally that had actually contacted the police and said, Paul Capaldi is out walking his dog, So I phoned them up, and I said, yeah, but hold on a sec. They send you this kit, a blood testing kit, where you have to prick your finger with a lancet. And like they should have sent you 10, one for each finger, the amount of blood they wanted in this little vial, Isn't it funny how we're talking about blood in blood vials, and bleeding fingers, So they send you this kit and you've then got to post it back, right? So you're self-isolating, but it says clearly at the bottom, if you're self-isolated, you are allowed to leave the house to post your blood testing kit.
Yeah, I know.
So in other words, you're not contagious when you've got this parcel in your hand that you're about to post back to them.
Yeah, and when you're walking to the post office, there's no chance of spreading the virus around in the post office.
Exactly. I was disappointed. Sorry, we'll get back to the advocacy bit, but I was disappointed to see that the Rabbitohs nearly did it, and then in the final, just by 2 points. Was it? Who were they playing in the final?
Penrith Panthers. For the benefit of everyone who has no idea what you and I are talking about, we're talking about the state that I live in, New South Wales and Queensland, a northern state, where our number one game is rugby league. Yeah. And the big match at the end of the season is called the grand final, and my team, which is the South Sydney Rabbitohs, played, which is an inner city team of Sydney, and played the Penrith Panthers, who are an outer western town of Sydney. And we unfortunately lost 14-12, but it was very close. Would have loved to win, but can't take it away from the other side. Someone had to lose, and just happened to be us. So,
yeah. Penrith, that's I go past Penrith on my way from Carlisle down south. It's in the Lake District.
Well, a lot of our place names are taken from the old dart ball. So
yeah, I tell you, talking about rugby here in the UK, we've had a bit of a discussion about cultural appropriation. Our top rugby team are called the Exeter Chiefs. The fans wear like Indian headrests and stuff. Oh, yeah. And apparently that's going to be sort of outlawed and stuff, So, but I'm not going to say, did we not come across some of that when we were across in Australia, and there was like, they were concerned about respect for the Aborigines and stuff like that, Oh, it kind of touches on that, doesn't it?
That's always an issue. That's always an issue. But I think you might be thinking about that whole issue about Native American Indians was an issue in the US for their football teams. And forgive me that I don't know the full details, so I'm not going to give it its due process, but I'm pretty sure there are a number of teams in the US, in
Washington,
or maybe the others, Washington Redskins, and I think some of those either have changed or have been required to change their names and so on.
I mean, it just seems a bit bizarre, I suppose. But I mean, we are my speedway team are the Berwick Bandits. I mean, how do you check with bandits to make sure that we're not offending them by calling ourselves Berwick Bandits?
Yes, I guess the subtle but important difference is that the bandit is an acquired behaviour, whereas skin colour and other things are birthright things. So, but in your case, this perfectly makes sense in terms of a bandit. So.
Well, I mean, we'll have to get in touch with the long lost, the distant relatives of Dick Turpin, But I remember once going to the Speedway, and it was me and Ali and Emily and her boyfriend. And the guy said, do you want a program? Yes. And we're selling off these T-shirts, and so eventually I handed over about 80 quid, And I know the guy quite well. I said, Dick Turpin used to wear a mask when he robbed people.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Anyway, tell us about the advocacy.
Oh, okay. So whilst you were, sunbaking in the south of Spain somewhere, we did have a little launch of the Richard McAdam Advocacy Foundation scholarships.
Yeah.
And we had two gentlemen win those scholarships. One was a gentleman called Jeff Jones, who lives in Hawaii.
Yep.
And the other was Samuel Colazo, who lives in Los Angeles.
Oh.
And very different people, both very interesting. Jeff's already launched quite significantly on YouTube, talking about not just Avery cases, but justice matters generally. He has a kind of a regular thing called In Bad Faith, looking at the issues of people acting improperly.
Yep.
And he's also recently launched a thing called Justice After Dark, or maybe it's Jeff Jones After Dark. I just forget the name. I think he was throwing up what he would call it. Yep. I think mostly to pick up on a later night audience, US time.
Right.
Jeff's doing a great job. He's very knowledgeable and very keen to add his voice to the community, so that's good. And Sam is he's in the evolution stage. He's actually just in the process of evolving his podcast, and we're hopeful that in the next month or two we'll have him out on the live airways. But both are very worthy candidates, and I'm sure Richard would have been very honoured to have those two.
Oh, come on, dude! You can imagine him going around everywhere, telling everybody those two, all that community. I started that off. How did they hear about the dude?
That's a very good question. I'm not 100%. I think, well, Jeff's originally from Wisconsin,
right?
So I think he has some friends who are part of our broader advocacy community. So he may have heard of Richard. I think he knew of Richard anyway, to be honest,
right.
Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
But so I think he was probably more aware. As far as Sam is concerned, to be honest, I should know the answer to that question, but I'm not sure how he knew about it. But he put in an application and we considered it, and we thought it was a worthy one to award the scholarship. Now, the scholarship, is pretty straightforward. It's not like, $1 million or anything. It's basically the provision of broadcasting equipment, cameras, green screens, lighting, audio, and then advocacy support, which is basically people like myself and others helping them along the way to get going. So, the idea is just to give them a leg up to hopefully feel confident to get out there and talk and to do the very thing that Richard did.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the dude, 7,000 subscribers to his channel. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they were, a couple of those 7,000.
Oh, I guess that's very highly likely, I would think. Yeah. 7,000 is just a massive number. It just makes you realize the reach he had.
Yeah.
The reach was way beyond what we might think would be for. I mean, you do an amazing job, and you've got 2,000 or so subscribers, and I think, wow, that's just a massive number.
Mainly on the back of the dude. Mainly on the back of the dude, and stuff like the things that we've done with you and Mark and the dude and Stacey. I think that's been quite significant.
Yeah,
it gets the message out there.
I know. I'm sure there's been a lot of local Scottish dogs have subscribed to your channel of late. They probably follow Jock around the countryside.
They do. They do. I do a Facebook post regularly called "Spot the Jock," and I do a photograph of him in the distance.
Yeah, I know. I keep enlarging the screen to see if I can find him. So, I figure half the time he's not even there. You're just trying to trick us, right?
I think so. I think so. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's just brilliant the way that the community evolves and supports one another so much. I mean, obviously there are occasional moments when there's a little bit of a fallout between supporters. I always put that down to the fact that we're just so annoyed at what has happened to Steve and Brendan that sometimes our sort of annoyance is misdirected. But it is a great community, isn't it?
Yes, I think that'll happen. I mean, so long as people don't take those things, provided the falling out isn't maliciously personal, it's okay to have difference of opinion about some things. Or even to totally disagree with someone on something. That's fine. It's just, you can still respect them for the effort they're making. I was listening this evening to Courtney Skinner. She had a little broadcast going. Courtney's pretty out there in terms of the things she says and does, and there's a lot of things she says and does that is not the way I would do it, but that doesn't make her wrong or me right. It's just Courtney's way. But I really admire the fact that she has a go, right? And she's quite courageous in the way she approaches things, even though I think she could probably rub a lot of people up the wrong way. But she's a real trier, Courtney, and I admire her enthusiasm to the cause.
Yep. Getting on to the one of the most interesting things I read recently was a tweet by Kathleen Zellner, in which she obviously highlighted the article done by John Farrak.
Yes. Talking
about Making a Murderer 3 and why, really, we shouldn't be surprised. Why did the appeals court deny Steve? Why will the Supreme Court deny Steve? Because they don't want a Making a Murderer 3. I mean, how disastrous would that be for them?
Well, I think they're going to create one by denying.
Yes.
The denial of Stevie's rightful day in court, at a minimum, as an evidentiary hearing, is going to be the painful blow that will be struck if a third series is released. Because I try to, even though I know Stephen well and I obviously support his innocence, but I try to take his name off this. I just look at it from a process of justice. Stephen is entitled to have an evidentiary hearing based on newly discovered evidence and including Brady violations. And they should award him that, and he's entitled to the presumption of the evidence that he has is worthy, and they should award him that. If the judge at the time of the evidentiary hearing rules against him, well and good, that's their right. But to deny him an opportunity to step inside the door is just the most egregious piece of justice giving or lack of that can be given. And sadly, the appeal court, as I kind of, they try to play judge and jury. Not only did they try to, they were there simply to argue, or should have been there to argue, whether the evidence met the threshold of being adequate for a hearing. They tried to argue the case, and by doing that, not only shouldn't have they done that, but they demonstrated how they didn't know the case either. So it made them look really silly, and that's disappointing. And it says to me, well, if you don't know the case, and they shouldn't need to know the case, they should be looking at the process. Who were they talking to get their wrong facts from, right? The only evidence they should have before them is what's in the appeal document. So clearly someone was in their ear trying to feed them information that form part of their final ruling.
I mean, do you seriously think that the judges don't know the case?
Well, they don't know it in the detail that they need to know it to be fair.
I mean, I took it as they were just trying to parrot Angie.
Yeah, and you need to know this case in detail, but that's what I'm saying. Even this conversation, Paul, with you about this particular point is taking us into case detail, right?
Yeah.
The court's role is to determine whether the presentation of newly discovered evidence is of sufficient merit, not the merit of the evidence per se, but in the way it's structured and presented, to justify an evidentiary hearing. That's all they're meant to do.
Yep.
But they try to take it into like a supplementary jury room and judge it. That's not their role to do that. And by any reasonable measure, Stephen Avery's petition, initially to the trial court and then on to the appeals court, was meritorious and should have got them a evidentiary hearing. Yeah. That should have happened.
I mean, obviously, we've heard a lot about this procedural bar, and you know, it's not just Wisconsin, is it? It happens all over America, where they argue. Well, you know, you had the opportunity to bring this forward back then, you didn't, therefore you can't do it now. It's just a ridiculous scenario when you know, as you say, as Kathleen Zellner said, how was Steve meant to you know, when he was doing his own sort of acting as an yes, yeah,
acting for himself, right?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, not every element, but the great majority of the elements in the appeal petition related to newly discovered evidence, not evidence that was available or could have been available to Stephen Avery back in 2013 or whenever that was that he acted for himself, right? So he can't be expected to be some sort of psychic and understand what's out there that he hasn't seen. And if you accept the general principle that it should be about justice, if there's newly discovered evidence, why wouldn't he be entitled? If Stephen Avery was the son or husband or relation of Governor Evers or any other well-known Wisconsin personality, you would want him, as you would want for anyone, to get their proper day in court. That's all we're asking. Give him his day in court, and don't thwart what is meant to be the justice system. This is part of the process. It's not meant to be some, you know, gift. It's part of the process. He's entitled to these things, and they're thwarting him. And you know, now the matter's before the Supreme Court of Wisconsin, arguing that the appeal court acted improperly in the way they adjudicated the petition.
Yeah, I thought it was particularly telling in the very early paragraphs of the Court of Appeals decision that they talk about the fact that they want to bring closure to the case, and they don't want to keep going back and going over this stuff over and over again. And it's like, why not? You know, why would you not want to go over something that is potentially, you know, you have wrongly convicted somebody twice?
Yes.
You know, it's unprecedented. You know, I mean, is it really so important? You know, because you spend so much on subscriptions to your golf courses that you have to spend so much time on them, and you can't be bothered to look at Stephen Avery's case. I just don't get that at all. I thought that was a very, very mean.
Well, I mean, it's not about over and over. It's about if he's entitled to his day in court, he's entitled. If he argued a particular point and it was ruled against and not appealed, you can't bring that argument back a second time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But everything that's been brought forward here is newly discovered evidence. Newly discovered evidence. So you want for the principles of justice, you want any new evidence that could potentially exculpate Stephen, then he's entitled to that, as is any Wisconsin citizen.
Yeah.
And this selective allocation of justice is just totally unacceptable. And I had higher hopes that the Court of Appeal would behave in a more righteous manner, and I was sadly disappointed, because not because they ruled in the way they ruled, but the way they came to those conclusions clearly showed to me that they didn't understand what their role was, or if they did understand their role, they knowingly decided to go against what should be normal judicial practice, especially at an appeal court level, where the standard should be much higher.
Yeah, I was a bit concerned that with the tone of that appeals court decision, that it did seem as if the corruption goes a lot further up the food chain than just the local judges and the local police. That was my take of that.
It'd be hard to argue against that conclusion, and it's sometimes the corruption, it can be through silence, right? Not just by what you do, but what you don't do.
Mm-hmm.
You take that case, take Stephen Avery's name off it and pop it into an appeal court in some other state, and go through the facts, and what do you reckon the outcome would be?
He's going to get ahead.
They probably let him out, but at minimum they give him an evidentiary hearing or a new trial. So, the only way this can have got to this point is wink, wink, nod, nod. We don't want any of our law enforcement officers and having to stand on go into a witness box and put their hand on a Bible or whatever they do. So
What did you? Sorry, a final question, because I realised that it's getting late, and this dog is well observant of the fact that it stopped raining and is sat right at the door there. What did you make of? As I say, final question. What of the fact that the Court of Appeals didn't consider the Thomas Sawinski statement and said about you can come back with that? But was that more or less a case of, could you ditch, we can now ditch everything else and you can come forward with Thomas Sawinski, but that's all you're coming forward with?
I didn't quite see it that way.
Right, okay.
I saw it more that they did say, accepting whether it's true or not, that they were ready to bring down this decision earlier, just before Kathleen Zellner introduced this matter of Thomas Sawinski. And they took the view that they weren't going to rule on it because it was like after the event and the matter had already been 12 months out of or awaiting a conclusion. And so I think, that left that item available to go back to the trial court on a 97406 or whatever it's called. But I don't think their decision excluded all the other evidence as well. I think all that other evidence is still on the table, to be honest, and partly, in the Supreme Court, partly in the Supreme, because Kathleen Zellner is arguing simply that they didn't, in my simple terms, that they didn't deliver the proper process to Stephen Avery's petition. And if the Supreme Court knock it back, because these processes are built upon habeas law of the rights of a person. I don't know, but I would think undoubtedly the Wisconsin Supreme Court knock it back, she'll take it to the federal court on a habeas petition, saying the denial of Stephen's natural justice rights. And knowing what we do know about Kathleen Zellner, I'm sure at the same time she's always working downstream as well, with new evidence as well. But as I said, to me, the main issue is Stephen's entitled to, any petitioner like this is entitled to rights, and they've just knocked him back out of spite, basically, not out of reasonable analysis of what's been presented.
It's fear. I mean, it's going to be multi-millions, hundreds of millions that it's going to cost them.
I think it's reputational too. I mean, the money side, someone's going to pay that, but I think it's their personal reputations that they're mostly worried about.
Well, I think one of the reasons why they're trying to drag it out is so that, to be honest, the bad actors in all of this will just retire and eventually just pass away. But I can see this. I mean, if Steve was to pass away, the case carries on. Even if Kathleen Zellner passed away, her office has all the information. It will just keep going, and it'll just get worse and worse for Wisconsin.
Her her and her office will act on behalf of the estate.
Yes.
At that point.
Yeah.
So that won't change anything. But let's fingers crossed. Steve was. Oh, by the way, Steve is well.
Yeah.
And I speak to him usually a couple of times a week, and he's as he always is. He remains positive, and he's now visiting his dad is now visiting him every fortnight, which is lovely. And Sandy's there every week as well. So.
And how's his Aussie accent coming along?
Not as good as my Wisconsin. I've got there's some really very clear Wisconsin sounds,
Yes.
Like the word, what I will say, no, N-O.
Yeah.
They have this like no, they've got this sort of nasally thing going on. No, and they use the word ya a lot for yes.
Yes.
Ya, no.
Yeah.
I'll come by you, and that sort of thing. So
it's
kind of nice.
It's like watching Fargo, isn't it?
Yeah, I like, despite the kind of the pain and suffering of all this matter with Stephen and Brendan and the Hallbachs and what they've had to go through. My overall emotional sense to Wisconsin is that it's such a beautiful, physically beautiful place, and it's a shame that the behaviour of a few have tainted that reputation. So,
yeah, I mean, if you trace it way back to Thomas Kasurik saying, "I'm going to get you for it whether you did it or you didn't." It was like, you ran Sandy Moss off the road. Yes, you're going to face a court appearance for that, but we're going to really screw you up because we can. And they never, ever, ever in their wildest nightmares thought that making a murder was going to come along and highlight what was, the corruption in that case,
No, and they didn't really realise that until it came out, because, they were happy to grant Stephen, and in fact Brendan for that matter. Brendan had an evidentiary hearing when the folk from Northwestern got involved, and Stephen, there were some appeal processes for Stephen.
Yes.
But ever since Making a Murderer came out, it's like the door's been shut and the bolts locked, and they don't want a day in court at all.
Yeah, I mean, what's really interesting, isn't it, is the fact that Kathleen Zellner, the first thing she ever filed for was for stuff to be tested.
Yeah,
and they gave her 9 items, including a bullet. Yeah, and that bullet has really been, it's going to be the pubic hair of 85. That bullet, I mean, no bone but wood in it.
Yeah, I know. And paint, red paint,
and some waxy substance.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, and it also had Teresa's DNA on it.
Yeah, funnily enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just conveniently there.
I mean, what was it? Is it fired around the garage and rebounded on everything? And it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So sorry. One final question then. What's on for Mark for the rest of the week?
I'm working from home. We've had a significant lockdown since the end of June.
Yep.
We being Australia, we're a little late to the vaccination process, getting adequate vaccines.
Right.
Volume-wise, I mean. But as we sit here tonight, or for me tonight, in the state that I'm in, which is New South Wales, it's the largest state, with capital is Sydney. We have approximately 92% of the population, adult population of our state, who've had one vaccination,
right,
and 82% who are fully vaccinated.
Right.
So we've got 82% of our state. The other states of Australia, which there are another 6 and 2 territories, they're close to us. Right. They're following. Some are a few weeks behind us in terms of vaccination rates.
Sure.
And we have something like, I think, we're also vaccinating 12 to 15-year-olds.
Yep.
And there's about 2/3 of those that are being vaccinated now. So, to answer your question now, Paul, what that's meant now is pretty much a lot of the lockdown processes have been lifted. Right. There are some interim rules until December. Right. And there are some things that only vaccinated people can do that, but in time, unvaccinated people can do as well. Right. And so but importantly for me is this is meaning is that the international travel is opening up now. We're allowed to travel from the middle of November, and coming home is just at this stage. If you're fully vaccinated, there's no need for hotel quarantine.
Right.
So
that's good. That's good. No,
so answer your question. I'm busy working, but I'm working from home, and hopefully I'll be back in the office in about a month's time, I think. So
right. Okay. No, it was interesting because I'm double vaccinated, and obviously when I got the COVID, one of the things that really helped was the fact that having to take the dog for a walk, getting that exercise, it actually pulls you through it, you know. But yeah, finally, remember a couple of weeks back I sent you all that information about where Speedway first started in the world.
Yes. Yeah, in Australia.
It's just around the corner from you.
Oh yeah, which one was it? What
Maitland Showground.
Oh yeah, that's just up the road, 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
So,
well, 45 minutes in terms of Australia is next door, isn't it?
That's right, exactly. That's right. There's not too many countries you can fly in a plane for over 4 hours and still haven't left the country, right?
Yeah.
That's what happens in Australia. So if you're heading with,
yeah.
But I remember watching Speedway when I was a young boy, just on TV. You know, I don't remember all the names of the people, but I was very fascinated in it when I was younger. So yeah.
Well, the big name, of course, from Australia and New Zealand were people like Ivan Major, and more recently Jason Crump was the three times world champion, and we actually saw him riding at Berwick recently, and I've got a brilliant photo in the hallway which I will share at some point of our young 18-year-old sensation going past Jason Crump on the fourth bend, and Jason Crump is looking behind him this way, and Leon Flint's coming that way at like twice the speed. It's a great photograph. I'll share it with you sometime. Anyway,
well, when I'm next in Scotland, you'll have to take me to the Speedway.
Absolutely. It's pretty good, and it's a team sport, so it like combines the fact that you've got your favorite riders, but you've also got the fact that you're cheering on your particular team. So it's got that sort of tribalism about it, but it's got that connectivity with the fact that, you know, the Berwick Bandits. Sometimes we've not had a single British rider riding for the Berwick Bandits, you know, but now we're at the stage where we've got a couple of British riders, and one of them is actually from Berwick, and that's the guy that's really been a sensation. So yeah, it's been.
The other thing I like about the Speedway racing is it still carries that connection to the common man. It's like, you can imagine, you know, the guys in their garages late at night tuning their vehicles, right?
Yeah.
It's not like Formula One where everything's, you know, within a millimeter of its life measured.
Yeah.
So it still feels like, you know, the average guy who's got a few pennies and is a bit crazy about cars can put something out there and have a go. So yeah.
It's good fun. It's very, very, very entertaining. It's just one of those things where when I first was asked to take my ex-wife to it, well, she said, "Can you find out where Berwick Bandits race?" So I said, "Yeah, they race near Eagle." That's great. I said, you know, all you need to do, go to Eagle and you'll find it. Oh no, you're taking me. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go. What do I want to go to? What do I want to go and hang out with a whole load of Hell's Angels? You know, that was my misconception of Speedway. But things have changed. I became hooked. Yeah.
Well, can I just congratulate you on your health journey?
Oh well, yeah. I'll keep going. I'll keep going.
It's not an easy thing to do when you get older, right? So it's a wonderful thing to lose that amount of weight that you didn't need to have is a wonderful achievement. So congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Mark. I will keep going because it's well, as I say, I've got this hound here, Spot the Jock. He's looking at me now, and you know, as soon as I say cheerio, he'll come up to me and he'll jump all over me as if, come on then, you finished. Now we're going for a walk.
All right, Mark, it's good to speak with you.
And you.
we'll keep in touch, and no doubt we'll have some more things to talk about in the near future.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm gonna get back on to doing a few more videos. I've got plenty stuff that what I do is when I come across an interesting article, I send it to myself and then save it for a video. So yeah, I've got a few things in mind.
One thing I would be remiss of us not to mention today is Brendan's birthday.
Oh, yes.
And Tracy Keogh from Melbourne,
yes,
of course, has organised some billboards both in Milwaukee and in Manitowoc. So
yeah,
putting out that message yet again about Brendan's needing and deserving justice. And so anyway, it's a big happy birthday to Brendan, who spent sadly 15 birthdays behind bars, and that's something Wisconsin should not be proud of. So
no, I have a strong feeling that Evers might, in his last year, 2022, might do something about it then.
Yeah, seriously, I just does my head in how I think he's hiding behind a process that's established to hide behind.
Yes.
They don't even consider pardons to people who haven't served their sentence. I mean, excuse me? Yeah. Really? What does that mean? That's not a pardon. I mean, anyway, I won't, that's another episode. Maybe we'll have a chat about that another time. I think we could talk all about that. We'll drag Tracy on as well. She'll have lots to say. So
I'm going to say I'm going to have to get Tracy on pretty soon, because it's been a while since I've spoken to her. In fact, I'm going to say the last time we spoke with Tracy would be when the three of us did that podcast for the 6th hour.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
which is good fun. I listened to it. It was quite entertaining.
That's a wonderful thing Tracy did. She was fabulous at that work. So yeah.
My wife Eunice laughed at a few of the things I said. not because they were funny, but because of the fact that I'd said them.
Yeah. All right, mate. I'll let you go. Okay. Enjoy your walk with Jock.
Will do. And enjoy your swim with the sharks and the crocodiles, and taking your spiders for.
Yeah. And give my best to your best too.
Will do. Yeah.
Hope to catch up soon.
Absolutely. That would be brilliant.
All right, mate.
Okay, mate. Yeah. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.